This isn't so much one encounter, but it was a terrifying experience. I've never told this story to anyone besides the police, but I've been thinking a lot about it lately, and only recently realized how much the whole thing really messed me up. So, here goes. I met this guy at a bar one night. We had a great time, partied all night, and eventually ended up back at my apartment. After that night, he basically lived with me instead of the hostel he was staying at. We clicked right away, and I enjoyed having him there. We dated for about 3 months before the first night he attacked me. It was the night of my 30th birthday. We celebrated, had a blast, and passed out around 3 a.m. He had told me he suffered from PTSD and night terrors. He had woken up many nights freaking out. I was deeply passed out when I awoke to 5 quick blows to the head and face. I tried to cover myself, not knowing at all what the hell was happening, when I realized my arms were pinned at my sides. He was sitting on my chest with his legs on my arms and strangling me before I had any idea where I even was. I only remember the light fading and going black as he squeezed harder on my neck. When he let go, the blood eventually rushed back to my brain, and I remember seeing him walk to the bathroom. At that point, I grabbed my dogs and ran to my car and took off. He must have passed back out. He called me hours later, completely confused as to where I went. I told him everything he had done, and he promised me that he didn't mean to do any of it. He would never do that on purpose, and he promised to seek help. I agreed to come back on the terms, if he even scared me again, that he'd be gone. Exactly 1 week later, again in my sleep, I woke up to him on top of me, but not doing anything. I slowly pushed him off and pretended to be getting ready for work. Out of nowhere, he jumped up and sucker punched me in the mouth. I fell onto the bed and he again tried to strangle me. This time I didn't fight and I pretended to just pass out. He let me go once he thought I was passed out and went to the kitchen. As soon as he left, I grabbed my dogs again and booked it to the car. I jumped in the car and locked it. This time he chased me, and that was when I realized this wasn't some PTSD nightmare sleepwalking freakout. He was a psychopath. He was awake and very coherent. He was screaming that he'd burn my house down if I didn't come out, trying to break the windows to get into my car. As soon as I got the doors locked, I called the cops. He went back inside, and when the cops arrived, I told him he's crazy and that he might try to attack them. When they went in, he was quietly waiting for them and went without any resistance. He knew what he did. It wasn't until during the trial that I found out there was a knife in my bed. When he let go of me and went to the kitchen, thinking I had passed out, he went to get a butcher's knife and had left it on the bed when he chased me out. No one can prove what he was planning, but I'm convinced he was about to stab me to death. He wasn't charged with anything in the end, because the DA pulled some fancy lawyering maneuver and tricked him into walking right into the arms of ICE as soon as he left the courthouse. I have to say that was satisfying to watch. He was deported and banned from the country. He still tries to contact me on social media by making new accounts to try to get me to help with his appeal to be allowed back, but nope. He still claims he wasn't awake for any of this. I don't know what I believe, but I know I feel a hell of a lot safer with him on the other side of the globe. I've been having a hard time sleeping since then. I kinda brushed everything off and carried on with my life as if none of this ever happened. Thinking about it recently, I realized being attacked in your sleep and coming that close to possibly being a murder victim might cause some lasting psychological damage. I am considering seeking help. I think maybe sharing the story for once might be a healthy first step. Okay, so last year I was coming home late, 11:30 or so, to my roommate's home. Just me and my roommate lived there. I'm the only one home at the time. I go to the kitchen to make dinner and get halfway up the stairs, and then I hear pounding on the door. I never answer the door because I never invite people over, so I ignored it. I turn the hallway light off, and the pounding gets worse. I know you're in there, don't effing ignore me. I quickly close my bedroom door, the only safe place for me in this small house. I somehow move my heavy furniture in front of my bedroom door, big chest of drawers, and I just crammed it against the door. And I grab a hammer, like this would help me. The pounding gets louder and louder, as if this person is throwing their whole body against a very, very solid door. I call my mom, who then tells me to call the cops. The noise has stopped right when I call the cops. I tell them someone is trying to break in as the noise starts up again. The screaming and yelling, throwing body against the door. Slightly nervous that this stranger may try the sliding glass door, which I know my roommate never locks. Thank God it was locked this time. I stay on the phone with the dispatcher as the guy keeps yelling his head off. I can see his car still from my window. I saw you turn out the lights. I know you're in there. Let me in there. I'm sorry. Let me the F in, you meh. Well, by the time the cops come, the man has already left. I somehow get downstairs to talk to the cops. They find the guy parked down the street from my house. They ask if I know him. I don't, but my roommate does. It's her daughter's boyfriend. He came to apologize for smashing and breaking her hand in a car door. Well, they don't arrest him because he didn't technically do anything. I ended up filing a restraining order against the guy, told my roommate when they got home. They thanked me but called me sensitive when I told them I freaked out. Her daughter said, "He's harmless." Yeah, right. I moved out the next day. Long story short, my roommate's daughter's boyfriend wanted to apologize by breaking in. Mind you, this is not about my ex, but my cousin's, which makes it even more creepy. My cousin was with this guy for a really long time, so everyone in the family thought they will surely, eventually get married. But after I would say around 10 years of dating, they broke up. Like you may think, everyone was shocked, but at the same time, somehow for me, they've never looked good together. He was always mean, angry, and frustrated with everything, and for some reason, he always made me feel uneasy. The actual story happened when I was 14 to 15, so it's been quite some time now. It was summer, and all of my cousins left on a road trip, and my aunt and uncle went to visit some family members, so they asked me to keep an eye on the house and take care of their dog while they were absent. During the day, my grandma stayed with me, but for the night, she went to her house, which was only around the corner. That night, I was laying in bed watching some movies. It was already getting late, so around midnight I turned off the TV and went to sleep. It wasn't even 15 minutes when I heard a noise outside. My aunt used to put the pots with the food on the patio since it was cooler there during the night, so the sound reminded me of putting the cover on a pot. Normally I would ignore that, but I thought the dog is probably wandering around outside and trying to eat up the food. So I rushed out of the bed and straight to the kitchen back door. I turned on the light outside and looked out the window, expecting to see a dog. For my surprise, there was no dog, but immediately I noticed the shape of a person. Quickly turned off the light and noticed the dog sitting behind the kitchen table. I felt my heart racing. There was no one there with me to ask for help. So without moving, I waited. Suddenly the person appeared right in front of the door, and I recognized him as my cousin's ex-boyfriend. What the heck, I thought? I knew he used to come here even without notice, but during the night that was kinda strange. "What are you doing here?" I asked, but he just said to unlock the door for him. "No one's home. Everybody left. Olga's not here either," I answered, but he didn't look like he was going to walk away. "Can you at least let me pet Roxy, the dog?" he asked. The dog belonged to him and my cousin, so I thought maybe he missed her. I opened the door then, just a tiny bit for him to be able to reach his hand inside to touch the dog, who was now standing between me and him. Suddenly he grabbed the door and pulled, saying angrily, "You can at least open the door so I can come inside." So now we were standing there, me in my pajamas, watching him playing with the dog who was apparently happy to see him. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he said with the same voice, and I noticed he was drunk. I was nervously, constantly checking the time. "It's getting late. I think you should go now," I said, before I even realized that he was in front of me. Just to let you guys know, I'm a pretty small person, barely 5'2", And this guy, at least 6'2", was hanging on me and pushing me against the wall. "You're drunk," I said, pushing him away. He looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Why did she break up with me when I loved her so much?" he said. "I don't know, that was her decision and I had nothing to do with it." "Can you at least hug me?" he asked. So just to get this over with, I let him put his arms around me. My heart was pounding, but I tried to keep it together. "I think that's enough. It's really late and you should go now." He looked at me surprised and tried to hug me again, but this time I was constantly pushing him away. Finally, we reached the door. I opened it and gently pushed him out. "Why are you pushing me?" he said. "Are you afraid of me? I won't do anything. Come on, just let me stay." "You can come back tomorrow, or when Olga comes back. And if you leave now, I won't tell her that you've been here tonight." I answered in the same moment as I pushed him out as fast as I could and locked the door behind him. Because he was drunk, his movements were a little slow, so that gave me a little bit of time. "Go home," I screamed and turned off the lights. Even from the other room, I could hear his inappropriate screams. And then my heart dropped. Did I even close the front door? I rushed, and at the same time, he grabbed the handle. But fortunately, the door was locked. "Open the door! Open it, you bitch!" he screamed. "Go home! Just leave!" I said. Went back to the room and covered my head with the pillow. But even then, I could still hear him screaming through the door. He walked around the house a couple more times, checking both doors, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, he left. I knew I was done sleeping for the night. After that happened, I didn't tell anyone about it for actually quite a long time. And after that, I saw him at the house a few more times, but it was always awkwardly strange, and since then I tried to not even look in his direction. I will definitely remember that as one of the scariest nights of my life. I was told this story would be a good fit here. When I was about 8 years old, my sister, who was 18 at the time, brought home her new boyfriend. He was around 30 years old, which concerned my mother, but it wasn't abnormal for my sister to do this. At this point in her life, she was falling rapidly into a deep depression. Drugs and one-night stands were very common at this time of her life, so an actual boyfriend seemed better than my mom not knowing where she was every night. The boyfriend was very nice to us, and especially to me. He and my sister took me to different places. He bought quite expensive gifts for me, and my 8-year-old self liked him very much for this, of course. This will be relevant later. I even went to his house for a sleepover, but of course my sister was there with me. I should tell you that I never got any creepy vibes from him ever. He never said anything weird or creepy as far as I can remember. Fast forward to the day they broke up. It's quite a blur, so I don't remember all of it, but I do remember him showing up at our house and my sister refusing to let him in. My mom wasn't home, but it was still light out, and luckily we're very close with our neighbors. My other sister, who was around 13 or 14, kind of locked herself in her room, but every now and then she'd walk up to our older sister and ask, "Has he left yet?" Now, I was a very curious kid, and I had no clue to what was going on. I saw my older sister was very distraught and very snappy toward me. Understandable, considering I was constantly following her and asking her questions. I remember looking out my mom's window while my sister tried to push my head out of sight. This is also relevant. Boyfriend yelled at her that he had to come all this way, he lived about an hour away, and something about the police, though I can't remember what. He left shortly thereafter. Years later, I thought of this evening and finally asked my mom about it. What she told me left me shocked. Apparently, my sister had found adult content on his phone. It still gives me shivers thinking about how nice he was to me, and why my sister tried to keep me out of view that night. This isn't as scary as most stories here, but I thought I would share it and let you guys decide. But sister's ex-boyfriend, I really hope me and my family never see you again. This all started when my mom met her new boyfriend, who I'll call Ray. This was when I was 14. The first time he met me and my siblings, he looked at my mother and said, "Oh wow, I didn't know you had a gang." So, great first impression, right? He seemed like a normal guy at first, but after he moved in, we soon realized he was a hothead. He would yell a lot and throw tantrums, but he would always sweet-talk his way around my mom and make everything seem okay again. And this is probably why she didn't dump him sooner. My mom has always been a bit immature, so I think it made it easier for him. But Ray found it really difficult to get along with me and my siblings. He would complain about every little thing we did wrong, and he started to accuse us of trying to ruin their relationship because of this. I have 3 sisters, and me and my younger sister were the wild ones of the family, and we were the ones that he had a problem with. He soon stopped us from seeing friends that he didn't like, and was more strict with us than with my other sisters. I realized he was crazy when he picked me up from school one day, which he never did, and while driving home, he accused me and my sister of talking about him behind his back. I said, "What?" And he started going on about me not bothering to deny it because he's got proof. When I got home, he showed me a recorder and played back me and my sister complaining about him in our bedroom. So I knew that it was in our bedroom. What the hell? Immediately, I asked him, "Why are you recording us in our bedroom?" We had a big argument, and I immediately rang my mom and told her, but I think she didn't want to get on his bad side because she didn't say anything about it to him, which still annoys me. I made him remove all of the recorders from mine and my sister's room. When I was 16, I got a job at a chicken treat, and he had a big problem with that as well. The reason for this was because my boyfriend at the time worked there, and he thought I was just going there to mess around. So his way of making sure I didn't was to come and record me, and he did this for a month. I was pretty much done at this point. I moved in with my dad, who had just moved back from NZ. My dad was pissed when I told him all this, and he wanted to call the police on him, but my mom begged him not to do it. They broke up soon after over something completely unrelated, and thankfully, I never saw him again. Hey, hi, howdy, my lovely listeners. I hope you enjoyed this collection of creepy ex encounters. This is a collection of creepy ex encounters. Creepy encounters with ex-boyfriends, for the most part, in this one. Actually, boyfriends for the entire part in this one. Anyway. Yeah, I wanted to cover these because I thought they'd be interesting stories. I don't think I've done a creepy people collection for a little bit, so here you are. If you did enjoy this, and would like more content like this, please consider joining the Nevermore. To join the Nevermore, all you have to do is just hit that little subscribe button and the bell next to it. That's it. You're done. That's all you have to do. To support the Nevermore after joining said Nevermore, you can access things like my Twitter, Facebook, subreddit, Patreon, and Coffee. Any one of these will support the Nevermore if you do anything on them. I don't ever ask for financial support. I just want to let you know it's there. That's all. And lastly, there is a page where you can submit a story to me if you have one for me to read. That all said, my lovely, 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 lovely listeners, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great day. Because you know what? Today, being Friday, June 26, 2020, I am having a great day. I wish it would cool down a little in this closet, though, because it is hot as hell in here. Seriously, I am sweating. And I've been in this closet for like 5 hours. Okay, more like 3 hours, but still. Actually, I think it's only been like 2. My point is, it's hot. Alright, have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Till the next time. Sleep well.